No, no. Time-wise, are we good? We good. I declare this meeting.
You're ready.
Are we ready? Like start ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
You're
Call
live.
this meeting to order. Well, hello, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. First order of business will be the meetings for the second, the infamous Groundhog's Day meeting. Has everybody had time to read it? I would move to approve as presented.
Second?
Okay, motion by King, seconded by Naylor. Childs,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved.
Okay. 61 Hall Street, Groove.
63.
63, excuse me. We have a prospectus report on 63. I'm a little puzzled by their findings of it not being historically significant because it's pretty much intact and it's a cute house for its time, but does not meet certain national guidelines evidently, and so it was deemed by prospectus to not be historically significant.
Yeah,
it's
well,
from-
Steve,
I
can
think
I
it's
just
from
mention
19
as well, they alluded to the fact that it could, this area, and I agree, is a potential National Register Historic District, either by expansion of the existing West Side District to the south, or I feel the Hall Street allotment itself would be eligible. And they alluded to that in there. So I fall with you that I do think that this house is historically significant.
Okay.
It's 99 years old, and
Yeah.
I just think it's really so strange just to have these be called non-historic based on a technicality. I think there could be a little discussion had about houses between 50 and 100 years old and where how they fall into this. So
Yeah, and especially if they're relatively unscathed in terms of wonderful ideas and additions over the years. Anyways, nonetheless, we will accept their thoughts. I move to receive the report.
second.
Sorry, Wendy, you got beat on that.
No, that's okay.
So motion by King, seconded by Childs. Naylor,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay, motion's approved for the HSR. We'll move to the meat of the topic.
Who's speaking for?
I believe it is Becky Pantuso.
I'm here, sorry.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Becky, it's all yours.
I would agree with the board. It is a lovely historic home and should be on the registry. We're in fact trying to all but replicate the front porch to match in the back. Doing a somewhat modest covered area. They've got a big, if you look at the photos of the existing, they've got a big, I guess, poorly constructed deck that, you know, the risers come up taller than the treads. So it's just leaking water down in between and kind of a mess. I also think so we're going to tear that all out, which is great. And in adding this back porch, not only will they have a little covered area, but I think it'll provide a little relief to, as soon as you walk in that door, you've got a mud room that's, you know, just the corner of the rear living room. So not throwing Aaron, Curtis, and the 3 kids in the door out of the rain might be a little bit helpful functionally in daily life. But yeah, I mean, our presentation is such, we really want to match that front porch. So if you like that, you'll like this.
I think there's nothing at all objectionable about that. I mean, the rear porch concept, so I'm all for it.
I just had a couple of comments. This distance from here to here
Sorry,
is
Bill.
over 18 feet. And so really the study of intercolumnation, if you look at the front porch, the columns are probably within 6 to 7 feet. There really should be some sort of a column either here or here, because this looks like it's not gonna, the span is so far that it needs to have some other type of column. And again, that's basic intercolumnation of spacing a column. So that would be, if you put I think the porch is fine, way it's laid out and the hip roof and everything, but I would highly recommend a column in some area. The other thing I think on the hood, if you go to that hood detail. Stop.
How about the side entrance, Bill?
No, go back up, sorry, go back up. Well, you missed it. A little bit farther down. So I think this hood's nice and everything, but the bracket really needs to come out to here. It really should be here. So it looks like it's, when the beam goes around and returns, it looks like it has to hold up the corner instead of being cantilevered. But those are the only comments. Other than that, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Does that arrangement match the front? The cantilever idea?
No, it's going to cantilever out past the bracket, and I just trying to, I guess, keep that kind of modest in detail, because it's going to overhang the bracket in the front and has to.
I've seen a lot of little bracketed, very small things that do not have the beam element. You're really bracketing to the under surface of that. And I think that's what this is. So then a projection on the side might be appropriate, Bill, if it's that modest little overhang without the beam, and you're really apparently just holding up this little roof with the brackets.
Yeah, I agree. Motion?
Add columns.
I move to approve plans as presented with the addition, with additional columns and attention.
Yeah.
What? Did I hear some?
I think if you're gonna add a column, I know this is sort of, I like the idea of sort of accentuating the entrance with one column added instead of 2, but I think we should leave it up to Becky and her client to figure that out. We've got a great porch and a great, it's a nice solution. Let's not overthink this.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah, 1 or 2 columns depending on the Becky and the owner.
And let's approve it so that they can move on.
Okay, so motion to approve plans as presented with architect to determine additional columns and hood detail.
Wendy,
I
can you
second that.
repeat that? I kind of lost you.
Motion to approve plans as presented with architect to determine additional columns and hood detail.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay, motion by Naylor, seconded by King. Naylor,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
King.
Yes,
Okay, motion's approved. Thank you, Becky.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
68 Olive Street, Berkshire Hathaway, hanging sign.
I think we could probably move to approve this.
Yeah, this is basically just a rebranding of what was there.
Okay,
I agree.
I agree. Motion to approve is presented.
Second it.
Okay. Second, or moved by King, seconded by Childs. King,
Yes,
Naylor,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay, that was easy. Moving on to 291 North Street. Maybe. Might have lost, I got so many tabs here, I might have lost the file.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Oh, no, that's the
No,
material.
that's the materials.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back in and get it. Please hold. You see that?
Oh,
Nope,
Nope.
to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Now we see Bill.
Morning.
Hold on a
Good
second.
morning.
Hey, Christy, I might need your help here for a second.
On my way.
Thanks.
George, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very well, thanks.
Great.
How about you?
I'm
I
back.
feel good too. I
Good.
had a mild case, so I was lucky.
Good for you. That's the way to go.
I know. It's a
My
crazy-
husband drove to Findlay, Ohio yesterday for his first vaccine.
Did he?
Yes.
is
He
this the,
said what was crazy, he got there and he said everybody was from
Ah.
Cleveland.
I lost my, I need to get this.
My
Yeah,
wife
everyone's
works at
traveling
you.
all over. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Brad, what did you say?
I was saying my wife works at University Hospital and so many people aren't showing up for their shots that they're walking around asking people if they want them. Because I guess they go bad if they don't use them.
Yes. Hey, Brad.
maybe
you
I
wanna
should
take
just
all
go
our
hang out in the
numbers and
hall.
put them down?
That's it. If you want your shot, just go down to the hospital and hang out.
Ask if they see it.
You guys, excuse me, you guys see that now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, Christy.
So I don't know, Kevin wasn't feeling all that well yesterday, so I'm assuming that he won't be joining us this morning. We switched to the Hardy board per the board's request. We're going to use the Hardy board with the Miratech trim. And if you go back to the front elevation for a second, the one thing that we're hoping to kind of put back in there is we really like that arch. I guess I'm just going over the things that you asked us to change or that have changed since our last meeting. We really like that arch transom over the front entry and that little ski slope arched roof on that right-hand side. are two things that we are hoping that you guys would accept.
Those
I had- sorry, go ahead.
elements, sorry about that. I think those two elements do complement each other formally. I mean, they give a little softness to it. Not positive about correctness, but I don't know that this is a completely correct design in any event.
Yeah. It seems
So-
like how you've handled the, and I agree. I mean, I love the sloped roof. I was sad to see it go, and I'm glad to see it back. Because I really think it adds some, a softness, like George said. What I'm struggling with is I guess the band around at the top of the columns on either side. How you had, I don't know, little help here, Bill.
Could you zoom in a little, Harry, please?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
So just as far as the columns and how they're laid out, what's called the architrave, this is the architrave when you don't have a tenon and a frieze. This column shaft always gets lined up with the architrave. So that should be in line. It shouldn't be overhanging. So it should always line up the shaft. So if you could just make that little tweak, it'll look a lot better. And then,
Are you saying bring up that left side to match the front porch pillars?
no, what I'm saying is, can you zoom in really good, Harry? Is that as
No,
close
I
as-
can go in quite a bit.
So this shaft, oops, sorry. This is the shaft and this is the capital. So this is the architrave. So that line there.
Yeah.
So the capital should overhang.
God,
And the architrave should be right here, and it's hard to draw with this, right in line with that column shaft.
I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, that's just a small tweak, and that would help.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm looking at that I don't like when you get to the porch. You need to shove that architrave back in underneath it and make it only as wide as the top of the column shaft.
And then,
Yeah,
go ahead, sorry, I apologize.
I'm in agreement. I think that the way that the eave then captures that little arch may not work well. I think you want that eave to actually run back on the interior. So you're running that reentrant, little fascia in towards the arch, but you may need to pick the arch up or work with the geometry to make that intersection just not spring off of that eave. It should be above it.
Okay.
Is that,
So-
Bill, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's called stilting the arch. So before you spring an arch, you always go straight a little bit, like a couple inches. Then you do your radius. And that's the same with up here. And I know you guys think I'm crazy on this book here, but if you go to page 157, they have a perfect example how to detail that. If he details it, just copies it on 157 or Get Your House Right, it'll look 10 times better. It's just, follow their directions on 157 and you'll get all the proportions and the details pretty close to being correct. Because that's the same thing here. When this arch dies into here, it kind of looks funny. That arch should really, start up here a little bit and go like that. And, all this should get, again, it's just a matter of the proportions. If he goes to 157, I think he could clean that up quite a bit.
I wrote down the page number. I know from our last meeting, Kevin actually purchased that book, so that should be pretty easy.
And it shows you like examples of what not to do and what to do. It's pretty elementary and basic. So, I think that would help a tremendous amount. And then you're pretty much there. I think it's just fine details. And if you get it right on the front of the house, it'll just really make that feel really good.
I think those
Did you
are
say
all-
67?
157, it's on.
57.
I think those are easily achievable. On the left side elevation, you had asked us to either pull the foundation out or pull it in. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can pin Phil here.
Harry, could we go to that or zoom out again? And
Yep.
I do think one nice thing about this front is that you've got the overhang of that little porch on the left side to create shadow.
Where do you want me to go?
The left side elevation? It's the rear.
All right.
There you go. We had a dog shed, direct vent fireplace, and the board recommended either pulling that fireplace into the great room or
Yeah.
pulling it out. In order to kind of afford the hardy board siding and stuff, we opted to pull that in so we didn't incur the additional foundation and stone cost.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad, not to interrupt you, but on page 167 too is your exact porch except with the elliptical. If you look at that, it's on the left side of that page, 167. It'll show you how to do that.
167. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Those details, those are the best because it doesn't cost any more money or any less, and it just makes everything better, you know?
Right.
Correct.
So I think those were, I think those from our past notes were like the major concerns. So I hope we've addressed them enough to move forward with this.
Now, Brad, I did get comments back from our plan reviewer. You're gonna have to resubmit new plans to me. Also, I think you were copied on the site plan. Our engineer needs to do has you doing a revise and resubmit.
Yeah,
That wasn't approved yet.
we'll make those corrections.
Okay.
Sounds good. I was thinking we could buy Harry a copy of that book and
I got one in my shelf back here.
and save $45 twice a month.
You don't need to buy me one. It's right here.
All right, well,
And I have one too.
I do too.
And I use it all the time.
It's funny, I do too, when you're trying to explain things. It's very helpful.
Are we ready
Alrighty.
for a motion, Steve, for final?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, motion for final approval with attention to porch column, capital, and architrave and entry arch following pages 157, 167 of Get Your House Right book for guidance. Did you get that, Joan?
Yes.
Okay.
And just one more comment. If when you're doing this just so we understand it. You also see that happen on the right and left side elevations where the front porch architrave comes around. Brad?
Yeah, I actually was, I was actually going to change the plans and, you know, I would really appreciate the approval, obviously, but I was just going to resubmit the detail just to make sure we get it right, frankly. That way I'm not, you know, I'll have Kevin make the changes and it, you know, maybe I could just take like 30 seconds of the board's time at the next meeting just to be like, yeah, you got it, Brad.
Great.
Yep.
We're happy to do that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that obviously I can look at these pages, have Kevin make the changes, but it takes 30 seconds to make sure we get this thing as proper as we can.
I think you've done a great
I
job.
feel like
Thanks.
there will be a future addition that will improve this house, which will be a shed dormer on like you know, a third or 2/3 of the side elevation. Something to pop out there.
475050 Chris.
I don't think we can force that.
Okay, we got a motion. Need a second.
Second,
Motion by Naylor, seconded by King for final approval
and
it's pending grade plan review and plan review. Naylor,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
King.
yes. Christie, my wife just got a phone call. Somebody's trying to get on the meeting. There's nothing special. How do you watch the meeting? You just
There-
dial.
Sure.
Can I ask one more question? When I just want to have you guys look at that front elevation, should I fill out a whole nother application, or just like at the end when you have the public hearing, just be like, hey, this is the detail I did?
That would be fine.
Okay.
Right, Harry?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, he's just gonna come back and show you what he did, so
Okay.
pretty informal.
All right. I got 5 kids at home, so I remember when snow days were fun. Now I wish.
Have fun, Brad.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Go sledding. How does somebody get on the meeting to watch it?
Sure. If an attendee would like to join the meeting, they should go to chagrin-falls.org and go to the virtual meetings page, and there's a link to join. And when they select that link, they'll be prompted for the password, which is listed on the website, which is 44022. And I will see them as an attendee in the Zoom platform. So
Thank you.
go to the website, go to virtual meetings page, click the link for this meeting. 3 steps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, 36 Philomethian, an old friend.
Dave and Michael, I just promoted you both. Michael, I saw your hand raised, so I promoted you as well.
Mike,
Hey, I'm here.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mike.
Is Dave's on here, isn't he?
He
Yes.
is. Let me see if he's,
He texted and said he was on.
there he
Dave's
is.
muted, but he's there.
Dave, if you could unmute and start your camera. There you go. Thank you.
Good morning. Sorry, it took a minute for my Zoom to spool to let me in.
Morning.
That's what
So-
happens when you live in the country.
So thanks for having me back this morning. So this is our final submission for 36 Philomethian. Previously, we submitted for preliminary. The prior preliminary submission, we submitted the new rear elevation concept reflecting the reverse gable and the asymmetry. Some notes from that prior submission were to lower the pitch of the roof slope of that hip element on the right side of the rear elevation. That was 1. 2, we were to add a window above the door on the rear elevation. We did that. And then we were to study, and we actually studied and presented 2 different looks. So not to confuse you, but you have multiple choice this morning. We wanted to study how this looked on the left side elevation, and it was requested that we draw the left side elevation in full. So we actually drew this one of 2 ways on the left side. One is essentially that this addition is flush with the existing side of the elevation. The other way that we drew it, if you could kindly scroll down, was with a step in the left side. Let's see, where'd that go? There it is. This is the alternate that was drawn. We were asked to study working off of the rear porch roof and trying to integrate the detail in that to provide some sort of visual break and stepping it to create the L shape of the left side elevation. And then lastly, we're adding a new garage door to the barn. The barn door in the rendering depicted reflects the selection that we've made, and we are no longer centering the hayloft doors above.
So do you have a rear elevation of both these solutions?
Yes.
Okay.
See, I think it's up a little tiny bit.
It was up. Right there.
Yeah, so a little to the right there. If we could scroll a slip, there we go. So that's the rear elevation reflecting the bump in.
With the little-
Okay.
I personally think that the flush condition reads better, and the pushback looks forced. It looks forced on both the left side and the rear elevation.
So could we see the rear elevation of the other solution? Like that was this one, correct?
Mhm.
And then you have that flush solution. So do you have a?
Go back up, Gary.
There you go.
Oh, rear elevation.
Is there a rear elevation of the other solution?
Yes, so it's,
It's on the page,
saw that.
on the same page for each one of them, yeah. Shrink it down a little bit.
Option, and then the. So I would maybe defer to you guys on this because I'm starting to feel like you're right about that site elevation. I know I was pushing for the step in. I'm a little troubled by this super low hip roof there. It seems anomalous. I mean, in some weird way, I think they'd get more headroom if it was a sideways facing shed that would go up closer to the ridge, you know, and maybe even see it, because I don't think there's a lot of headroom in those rooms, the way I could tell, especially matching the eave actually seems a little forced to me. I feel like we've tried to push it down and make it so inconspicuous that it may look a little unnatural built. And that's
Yeah, I could go either way on the shed versus hip. You're talking about the little shed.
over the master bath and closet.
Yeah,
The one where the one that's the trickiest part of this thing is that.
Yeah.
Can I see the rear elevation again with the flush alternative? Move it over a
Oh,
little
yeah,
bit.
so it's up.
Yeah,
That's the inset one.
Whoops, sorry.
it's hard because the only other way you would do it is you would take, and you can't do it on this house, is take the gable all the way out to incorporate that entire flush side, what is that, north elevation. But you can't do it here because that wouldn't be the way the Queen Anne would go, which to have the gable off center like that.
So I was thinking
Well,
maybe.
I guess you could do it. You could make it kind of an L. I see what you're talking about. It's this little kind of thing stuck in the corner that isn't a shape that goes with the Queen Anne.
If it was just a shed at a different roof pitch that's set back, so it's just a wedge going tapering up to nothing up there. But you know, showing siding and a rake to the rear up to this rear elevation. I think that might be more natural.
You mean take the hip up higher into the gable?
Not
No,
even
get rid of the hip. Turn it into
A shed roof.
a shed from there. I'm curious Mike, what do you think about this?
I was thinking maybe just what we're seeing here, just make it a shed, but make it a little bit higher. So
Right,
right now it
higher.
looks so low.
Yeah, and it gives you no headroom. in
And-
your
and-
room.
you've already pushed the wall back on the rear elevation.
Right.
So you can extend that, you know, you can, I would personally narrow down the shed's eave coming out to the rear.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be, you know, it doesn't have to be 12 inches all the way around.
Right.
I you know, like the porch below it, where the shed is coming in and it's only projecting out a couple of inches. You do the same thing. It's really simple. And I you know, we've been pushing and pulling, and I you know, I'm looking at the dotted line on the rear elevation of page 1, and we're trying to enforce rules, Queen Anne rules, when they didn't enforce their own rules back then. These were houses that, you know, were basically packages, and they didn't come with a rear addition that was 2 stories and a cruciform plan and all this stuff. We're really pushing stuff around that just didn't happen, and we're making something out of way too much out of nothing. So I think we need to let these people get their work done. It's just, we beat on this thing for this is the fourth time. Let's be done with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I think the
really
original
frustrating.
comment to make it full 2-story was helpful. And I do think, I think giving them leeway to go flush on the side, you know, I think it's very important that that gable does project on the rear and steps back a little bit. And you've got that in both your options. Maybe we can just let them sort that roof out whichever way they want.
But it
You know,
needs to be flush. You need the space on the side.
It's in a very inconspicuous corner. I
Mhm.
mean, of course, we're looking at this in plan, but it's not like this is on the front of the house, but I think if you work that roof line a little bit, it'll improve the design. But I defer to you to do it.
Makes
Okay.
sense. So the feedback so far we've heard, right, Cato, is a little bit steeper roof pitch than what we have shown, and a little bit lesser overhang on the rake, and the study doing a shed element in lieu of the hip element. But it sounds like we're given some license to do that within the guardrails of what's been discussed here.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have one comment. Getting back to what Phil said, I mean, a lot of these houses weren't designed by architects and they were thrown together, but we now have the opportunity as architects, and we've all gone to school. I know I went to school for 8 years with a master's and certificate from Institute, that this is the opportunity for us to get the proportions correct, get the details, and give the village that vibrance of good historic classical architecture. So I think it's our duty and our objective to try to get these houses cleaned up and be as architecturally correct as possible within a reasonable limits. I mean, we don't have to be perfectly classically correct, but at least get the proportions and the basic scale and harmony of the composition correct. So I do think that's our job and what we should be doing. And my only comment on this is such a pure form of this crucifix, nice and clean, that in a way, this piece right here is an add-on that really doesn't belong in a way. It's just kind of foreign to the composition. So I don't know how you solve that. It's a really tough problem to solve, but no matter what you do, whether you put a shed or whatever, it's just going to look like an add-on or a bump because the rest of the form is so pure.
Well, the only other thing we studied, and it might have been presented before, is, you know, having a gable that goes from the left to the far right, and just make that one big gable, but then the roof pitch doesn't match the rest of the house. So
Yeah, we beat that one up
yeah, I
and
know.
spit it out.
I wasn't in that meeting, but I know Dave and I talked about that. And I think this is probably the best. I like the idea of the shed. I mean, it's okay. It's like 2 additions. I mean, this gable on the back is an addition, taking away the old gable, which is lower. So it's like kind of like 2 new additions, like stacked.
Yeah, I think that could be
Evolution over time.
fine. I agree. I think this little corner add-on is the toughest part. It kind of doesn't belong in the pure plan, but obviously additions like this are added to these houses all the time.
I think the pitch needs to be a little bit higher on that too.
We're often working with architects who don't even know what we're talking about. We're working with some very skilled people here, and we're all trying to please each other.
I have the book too. Bill made me
And-
buy this years ago.
Oh,
See, I told you. Anyways, we need.
Not all the way up.
We can have a resolution here because everybody wants to please everybody. So let's decide what do we want, or what do we want to ask of them, because they're ready to, to do it. And this has gone on long enough. This is usually goes on this long when we have contentiousness, and there's none of that. What direction do we give them today?
I think it should be a little lower than that pink line, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Slightly lower than that pink line.
no, get some height in there. Your eaves at like 6'8", 7 feet.
Or maybe just make it half the pitch of the gable that it's running into.
Yeah, I would say like 4 points less is good, right?
Okay.
Maybe 5 if you have it.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a third the way down where it hits the main gable. and it's pushed back. You know, the overhang isn't as deep, so that gable still reads.
Do you like the idea of a shed, Mike?
I think so, because I feel like there aren't any other hips on this house. It's all gables.
Yeah.
So I feel like the hip all of a sudden looks foreign to me.
And the porch roofs are all shed roofs. So
Yeah.
there's some,
Yeah.
So that's why I like the shed. I think it kind of picks up on that porch slope. In fact, maybe we just follow that same exact slope that you're seeing on the,
On the
middle
first,
there.
yeah.
Sure.
So there's at least some consistency and tie in with the rest of the house.
Great. All right, well, let's give them an approved as noted or approved with consideration kind of thing, and you guys can sort that out from there.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
Especially
thank
given
you.
the people involved here.
thank you.
We have a motion?
Okay, motion for final approval with restudy of bump out roof line,
Master closet, master bath.
closet, master bath.
Subject to architect's discretion.
Yeah.
Second?
Second. I second.
Okay, motion by Naylor, seconded by King to grant final approval with comments. Naylor,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs.
No.
Okay, passes 2-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to 3 West Summit.
Three West Summit.
Hmm.
Again, you guys have seen this a few times as well. So we made some of the modifications. I believe Dave's on the line, and Frank is also Frank Galucci, the owner, is also on the line. If you go down to the elevations, I think we submitted like a huge email. Let's go to the main comments were really on the front that faces Summit. I think it's the next sheet down right here. Right here. So if you look at the comments were all around the addition. So point number one comment from last meeting was the side lights should be 3/4 glass, and before we had the glass going all the way down to the sill. So we've raised those glass panels up to align with the panel that's on the door. The second comment was lowering, the owner still wanted to have those columns in the front on that portico for that new entry, because that will be the new front door. We did lower that roof down before that flat roof was touching the cornice of that breezeway roof. We call it a breezeway. So we lowered that down so it's not as tall. And the old door, which is on the left of this elevation, is taller and higher. The fourth or the third comment was the 2 little square windows on the first floor of the carriage house needed to scoot in to be a quarter of the way in on either side from the corners. When we looked at it, they started running too close into the stairs. So what we ended up doing is we moved them in sort of halfway from what we had before, and we centered the windows between the corner trim and the bigger window that's on the second floor. So those 2 squares are centered between the corner and that taller second floor window. Another thing I wanted to show you guys too, if you scroll down a little bit further, I wanted to show, again, we had a couple of hidden elevations that were not presented last time. So this is again the side of the carriage house that faces the old house. So you could see sort of the French doors. You could see we're having like a folding wall. There's a downstairs entertaining kitchen with a sort of a folding window that's on that lower left there. You can see a cross section through our breezeway. And if you scroll down a little bit further, again, this is the hidden elevation. Sorry, if you go up right there. So this is the hidden elevation of the old house. Again, you can see the breezeway coming through in cross section. You can see our built-in grill and our sort of stone retaining wall. And if you go down, I think if you go up, actually go to the first sheets in this elevation, you can see the rear. Go one more up. Yeah, so this was the rear. Again, this faces towards the village. We do have an elevation where we actually drew the grade line straight across because, again, you're not going to see that lower level at all because the grade slopes up back towards the village and then drops back down. So there's like a plateau. So somewhere in this, there's that elevation that shows what you really would see if you're standing 100 feet back. I don't know if it's like further down. I can't tell.
Yeah, I think it's down at the bottom.
It might be down at the bottom. Yeah, we kind of stuck it in there as an extra drawing. Maybe keep scrolling down, Harry. Sorry about that.
What the stone wall and material and treatment? What is the stone and mortar treatment?
We have a picture of that as well. We have a picture of all the exterior materials. Should be coming up.
Do you have a model of this project?
We do not have a model of this project.
You know, the
Here
grade
it
is
is.
page 30 of the PDF, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, here, these are our exterior colors. So the exterior colors were kind of mimicking what's already there. So it's like the sort of the charcoal gray is the trim that's on the house currently. And that becomes the body of the board and batten siding on the carriage house. But if on this sheet, if you just scroll up just a little bit at the bottom, no, right there, there's the exposed stone. So we're using that stone, which is kind of like a gray looking, it's a stacked stone. That's going to be the stone that we're using at the base of the carriage house, as well as for the retaining walls along the driveway and any retaining walls that are frame sort of the grill area and the stairs in that lowered courtyard.
No, that stone is just stacked. Are you having mortar or you must be?
Yeah, for the on the house, it'll be mortared in, yes. But for the retaining wall, it's designed to be it's a stacked retaining wall. I actually have a website, but I can't share it probably.
Is it veneer? Like you're doing?
It's like 4 inches. It's like 4 or 5 inches deep. It's like sort of rectangular chunks of stone.
It is stone. It is real stone.
Yeah, but I have to say, I mean, it's good that it's real stone, but that does not strike me as a historically compatible look. Especially for the foundations. There's something, it's too linear, the dry laid look that isn't right.
Too uniform.
And even the gray, that kind of uniform gray doesn't feel like it blends too well. So I think that was a good question, Steve.
I agree with that comment.
Could we go to the plan? I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff to talk
You want me
about.
to go down to page 30? Do you want to see the
Yeah, the
grade?
grade. Yeah, let's look at the grade.
Oh, the grade, sorry.
Yeah, there was a grade.
Oh, the site plan. Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
was
was
trying
good
to
to
skip
look
over
at.
your question. Didn't get it.
Well, it's not on page 30.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's the elevation I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That's if you're standing like 50 feet back or 60 feet back in the backyard, that's what you kind of see because the grade slopes down. It will slope down, which you'll see on the topo, into the lower courtyard.
Just don't take one more step backwards.
Then you start going back down the hill towards the new little park we're creating. So I think the site plan is further up. You're going the right way.
There you go.
There's the site plan. Maybe you could blow it. Maybe you could enlarge that part right there. Thank you, Harry. So we've got this retaining wall, like we talked about, that
Okay,
kind of
you see my notes there?
wraps along the driveway there. And we're going to be planting bushes to kind of soften it in ivy. So that kind of like just disappears into the landscape.
How high is that wall gonna be?
Dave, do you remember what this ended up being? Is it like 3 feet tall?
Looks like it's 3.5. If you zoom in, you can see the elevations marked on there. It gives it top and bottom.
Dave Manhart, yes.
And we have so much historic wall on the property that was split off. And I mean, I just wonder if we can use that as a guide for your construction of retaining walls.
Match the stone that's already out there.
George, what are you talking about? The wall, the Grove Hill wall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
the-
possibility,
all the way
or
up the
like
side.
the foundation wall color. I went up and walked around. I'm trying to see in my head, I believe this was either a field stone. Isn't it like a sandstone fieldstone color foundation up here?
Yeah, it is. It's like a sandstone. And in some areas there's
If
like
you
patched
could
in
blend
brick.
with that, yeah.
So
More of a fieldstone color.
Cato, I do have a picture of installed with grout where it has both the grays and browns that I can share if you
Yeah,
want. Is it possible for me to share my screen and show you?
Sure, Frank. Christie's just gotta give you permission.
well, we have a lot of things to talk about too. Maybe we should.
Harry, in order for him
I mean,
to
really,
share
the
his
stone
screen, you need to disable your screen share. There you go.
The
Perfect.
stone color is something that really needs to be seen on site too. It's hard to look at a screen and say, yep, that's okay. So,
So that's the same product installed with mortar. So from the same collection of photos from it.
That is better. It starts to look a little more like one of those barnstone foundations that you will see around town. Maybe, I mean, there's still probably too much gray in it for that.
Yes.
Blended is way softer than all gray.
Yeah, it comes in like a brown limestone color too.
It might be a little narrow. Is that like a 6-8 inch?
The height of it is about, yeah, it's about 6 or 8 inches, and they're about 18 to 24 inches. They're various sizes and length.
Yeah, they're 6 inches in terms of height, and then it looks like they range
like 18 to 20 to 24 inches long or so,
Yeah.
16 inches long.
anywhere from 12 to 42, it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of rock face sandstone look is I think what would be the best to go for.
It does have like a rock
gonna-
face to it.
It is rock face, which is good. It's just a little smaller scale, and you know, but I don't. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's something where maybe we see something on site. I mean, we got a ways to go with all this, and you know, there's.
I'll
if you
stop
just
share on
submit
this.
some choices to the village, we can, you know, I'll take it and run it up there and look at it quickly.
Or make a little sample wall on site.
Or a sample on site would even be
Make a
better.
sample wall.
What about the idea of true stone wall, irregular stone wall, because those are essentially stone bricks. So you don't have linear lines. I mean, it's a stone wall.
I mean, like, yeah, well, like, that's like matching the existing stone walls. So not, I mean, and I think that'll be a good thing about seeing something on site is that you can walk around and kind of compare it visually to what's there. So going back to the elevations, I know one comment I had, and I probably skipped out on a meeting when I was out for a couple of meetings, but was trying to make that, was perfect. Hang on, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Was trying to make the barn structure narrower, and I see that you've kind of kept the width of it, or no, well,
Yeah, we made it narrower a couple.
28.
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
it got
Yeah,
smaller.
29,
Smaller.
28. It is narrower. Okay, and then I do see that
was
you
30.
projected a narrower form towards Summit Street,
Right.
which I appreciate. That I think that's definitely successful. I'm trying to figure out this. So my biggest trouble with this, I mean, I think what you're doing with a house and a lot of things you're doing are very successful and nice. So I don't want that to be lost. That was my biggest concern with this, but I do think this is working okay. I mean, I guess you did squeeze it a little, but you also
We dropped it too. We
broke
lowered.
that broke that roof line, and
Mhm.
I think this works. I'm troubled by the windows on the barn, and I know that they don't need to match the house. Although you do see, obviously Italianate barns in town. But there's something about them that seems either slightly overscale. There's a big picture window that I don't like facing Summit, your central window. And some of your square ones seem big. When you say 30/30, is that 30/30? Are these Anderson?
They are, they're 3x3. Yeah, 3 feet by 3 feet.
So that's a really big square window. I mean, most square windows you'd see might be, I mean, even if 33 by 33 inches, 2'9", 2'6" in that neighborhood. There's something about that that just is a little off to me, and I'm not sure. It's because it's not working for me as a barn, not that it's not consistent with a house. That'd be my other comment. I guess I'm good with this massing now, though. I appreciate the work you put into that. I'm not, also, the other thing I wasn't a big fan of is this little, on the porch, lower level porch facing the rear on the, it's all connector piece.
Yeah.
That rear facing gable seems a little out of place to me.
We had a shed roof that went across there, and one of the things we were looking at, when I was working with Frank, was that because that's a covered space underneath that connects on the house there, that opens up to a terrace. But since the grade starts to slope up towards the back, we were afraid we were going to feel like like in a pit back there. So we thought if we created this little sort of peak, we could start looking up towards the trees and the sky a little bit while we're being covered underneath. So that was kind of added, and it's kind of like a vaulted ceiling in there with like a live valley and a post.
Maybe it needs 2 more posts.
I agree.
We have that's what I'm feeling.
There are little brackets underneath where the gable hits the gutter, like that, a tie in with that beam going across there. Because again, one of the things that we didn't want to have is too many columns under there, because it's going to have a couch and there's going to be like the grill area down there. So we're concerned about it being too columny down there, I guess.
It's flipping into like a Western feel, which once again isn't quite the same as your barn feel. And obviously it isn't the same as the house feel. So I guess that's, to me, it suddenly reads like a third style. I appreciate that you're trying to look up.
Yeah,
I think looking up is important if you're under that roof.
A roof.
Got a big retaining wall in front of you. So I get that part of it.
I agree with George. This is kind of what we were talking about before, intercolumniation, which is the spacing of columns. And does this really make sense? This beam going all the way over here. So if you just added a column, which looks obvious that it would be at that bearing point structurally, and saying here, I think that would look a lot better. But I think overall you did a nice job on the massing, composition wise. I think it looks good. My concern is like I'm assuming you're gonna do like probably like a half a dozen pages of details, because like this can't be this big of a fascia board, correct? I mean, what is that, 10 inches? I mean, this detailing this out, you're gonna like this bracket.
I think that's like 8 inches through there across where that gutter would be. It actually the fascia should stick out past the beam, I guess. Should be like a stepped piece. Right now it looks like it's drawn flush.
Are we going to see all these details? I guess what I'm like, there's a detail here, and there's a detail here, and there's a detail. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of details. How's this all get detailed? Just so we get all you got a really nice project here. I commend the owner for doing, renovating all the capital he's put and invested this. I think you want to get all those details and get all that, so it just embellishes the whole composition. Sure. So I think you got a really nice massing and fenestration. I think it's just really matter digging down into the details, get those all correct.
The supports for the small balcony, barns don't have balconies like that, but you need fenestration and a little step out. I understand that. It'd be a little more barny if we didn't have those 3 supports underneath the balcony. The supports for the roof are typical, but not so much for that balcony.
Maybe it should just be 2 like slightly beefier ones.
Well, or something more barn-like. We're touching on something that's an overriding theory to this whole wonderful project, in that the village stepped forward to save this house and so forth. And so we want to save the house and the feel and all that. But the same way, you can't expect somebody to step forward with more than a few dollars and have them please only the Nazi historical preservationists and not have livability. So when you put down this kind of money and time and effort, you certainly have a lot to say. And we're trying to figure out, okay, where is the save the old house and all the details? My God, they're going to let them tear down that wonderful barn. Well, it's not a wonderful barn. And so I don't want to lose the detail and the feel of the old house and the arrangement. And we're starting to bump up against that a little bit here. The stone in particular. Frank, I'd like your email or phone. I want to send you a photograph of some stone for your consideration.
Sure. Do you want me to put it in the chat or just tell it to you?
Well, what I'm going to do is walk outside of my house and take a picture of the stone on the back of my house for your consideration.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you my cell phone number. You can text it to me. That's probably easiest.
That's great. Harry can take care of that.
Okay, I'll get it to Harry.
Okay, copy that.
Going back to what I think that connector roof, one possible way to treat that might be to make it a taller roof in general. That is not the roof of the whole connector, but just the porch. Make it a higher porch roof and flat would be a way to get your gaze up and out, and with I would say a couple more columns or something that would look right on that. But then I think those windows, if they were a little, maybe not completely square, maybe slightly to the vertical, the square ones, and slightly smaller, could be very helpful. And I think the way you've broken down doors and transoms on this elevation could be your pattern for how to treat the elevation facing Summit Street of the barn. So that big central window, if it's
Oh,
not
I
just
see.
one, if you've got it
Carrie,
into,
could you scroll up maybe to bring the Summit Street elevation out?
I'm talking about something we're not looking at. So
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but just pull it up right here.
yeah, no, pan over to the,
To the right.
barn end of it, garage end, that one.
So adding like making that a transom, so breaking up the scale.
Yeah,
of that.
and too wide, too high, 2 windows high, but yeah, tall windows under
Mhm.
short windows. Just that big, that seems jarring to me with the Italianate.
Mhm.
And so that, I mean, that's really my comment. So think of those windows get just tweaked and studied a little bit. I'd be really happy with this direction. And I think the details are very important, as Bill said, but that's coming. I know it's a big process.
What are these 2 doors on the Summit Street side? The front door and the,
There's a front door right here that you see, and then the door that's further off the screen to the left, that's an existing door that we're just leaving there. We're not using it because it goes into the kitchen.
I see.
But I think
So
it's nice that you left it. I mean, I think.
Yeah, we just left
Oh,
the
yeah.
doors because why not? This house has so many doors in it.
what
It's
is the
great.
door between the lights? What is that door?
That's going to be the front door. That's that new part right there. So you mean the one right in the center of the screen? That will
Yes,
be
what
our
is the
foyer.
actual door?
That'll be the door we use. Yeah, in and out.
And it has, and so those are columns that has a stoop that's covered.
That's a covered stoop. It sticks out about 4 feet or 5
Just-
feet.
I think your hatch actually, and I would say I had a criticism of the last project. The hatch is pretty extensive and kind of dark. It makes it a little hard to read.
Yeah,
Sometimes you use the line in this. I think you might see it on the sheet, but it's just hard to see.
Yeah,
it in the presentation.
unfortunately, what happened was we printed these out on paper. Then I stamp everything by hand. I don't have a digital stamp I give to our drafting team. So I stamp it and then we rescan it into a PDF. So it gets the line weight on this version got muddled. I wanted to present the original PDF, but I think there's a rule that has to be the exact thing that's the paper copy that gets submitted.
I think you can make PDFs and then you can present stamped plans like to the 2 sets. And I think you're good. If Harry agrees with me, that's what I've been doing.
Yes. Previously, we were just submitting the PDF unstamped, just straight out of the computer, where it was like crisper. Here, you're seeing a scan of a print. Of
Yeah, and it might be helpful to see that original.
I can share the PDF it's a lot cleaner to see if you guys want me to. I have it up.
That'd be nice, Dave, because we just for that front entry, we just kind of copied the detail from the existing.
Mhm.
But we didn't, like, the existing has these little brackets. We didn't put the brackets on. We just kind of cleaned it up so it wasn't exactly the same as the old one.
I gotcha. Oh yeah, that's far easier to read. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
This is a raised panel wooden door,
Yeah.
custom made, I guess.
Mhm.
Is this a Daniel Weaver door or somebody like that?
It's a wood door.
There's a picture.
Planning on Rogue Valley right now.
Sorry, Dave.
I'm sorry, to be what?
Rogue Valley.
That's a maker, Steve.
Yes.
That's a
okay.
door manufacturer. I mean, I would consider doing custom because you may get better detail around your panels, which is, I believe, a feature of this
Yeah.
make doors.
Yeah. Frank, that might be an interesting ride out to Daniel Weaver's workshop in Middlefield because it's very, and this is a featured door and you would be impressed. I think.
Thank you.
That's way easier to read though. Thanks. That's very
Yeah, that's
helpful.
great.
So that's I also, I did notice the shoulder that you had. I believe
Yeah.
I believe the shoulder is still flush, but you popped the roof on it, right? and then you kept that or added a
It
window
is.
attached to the original?
Dave Manhart, if you could go to that rear elevation.
I just wanted to recognize that you,
That wall is still flush like the existing, and we still have that
Right.
little roof the way it currently is. We just copied what's there. We maintained what was there. So if you go down,
but the roof defines that. There you
right, you could see it up there on the far, in the upper right.
go. Yeah, it creates the symmetry that I was looking for,
Yes,
the balance. So I'm pleased with that solution.
that's exactly how it is today.
Thanks.
Sure.
Mike, maybe what you do on this, like George was commenting about these windows, just to look at these to keep the verticality in the Tyne 8, maybe all you have to do is get rid of these 2 windows right here and just keep these 4 right here, and you'll get more of the verticality and match more of this. It's just a thought. I mean, you'd have to study that and see what that looks like, but
So like 2 window panes wide
2 over
instead of
2.
3 window panes wide.
Yeah, like the verticality, and just put the trim board right here.
2 over 2.
And so that'll look more in keeping with this and the verticality and more of the Tyne 8 feeling instead of this seems like it's going this way horizontally versus going this way.
Yeah, especially with the wide trim. Yep.
Okay, we'll take a
This
look.
is the thought, just to look at. I mean, it is a barn, and a lot of times
The barns are more like that style, more
and they're kind of a different entity of the rest of the composition, and they can be foreign and look different. So I guess you gotta see how far you can take that. It's kind of your judgment or how you think, because now looking at that, maybe that window looks too small and you got tons of field around here.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
We were trying to get some natural light into those spaces too, because
Right.
there really isn't a lot of glass on this carriage house for the amount of space. We've got that 4-car garage, which again, the garage isn't as important. We do have lights on the garage doors or glass panels, but like I was concerned about the lower level and especially the upper level not having enough light, because that's going to be where Frank works up there and his home office. I just want to make sure there's enough glass looking out.
I think a little bit smaller and, not a lot smaller. I understand. And maybe even the trim being a little, a touch narrower. I don't usually say that, but it might look like it's 5.5 inches now.
It is 5.5 inches now.
Well,
Yes.
could be 4.5. Sorry, I mean, that's a goofy thing. It's like an inch, but it actually could make a difference how that reads.
Okay, well, in terms of moving forward, we've got a lot of things we've talked about and are to be seen. I think we're at a point, and I look for direction from all of you, where the plans are such that we need fine tuning, but we can approve them and move, and therefore approve the demolition. So we're at the first would be, here, do we approve the demolition first or the plans first?
I would go ahead and approve the plans as presented and then go to your demolition.
Okay, we got a laundry list that tags along with that as presented.
Hey, Steve, this is Christy. I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a hand raised by an attendee named Brian Schwartz. Would you like to hear what he has to
Certainly.
say before making your motion?
Certainly.
Okay, I'm going to promote him to a panelist. Brian, if you're on. It looks like he may have left the meeting.
Probably had
He requested to speak though?
Well, I saw his hand raised, but it may have been regarding something else. I wasn't sure. So go ahead
Sometimes
and
you just
proceed.
get
Thank
dumped.
you. Sorry for the interruption.
You want to give him a second to rejoin? Because sometimes you just get dumped out.
Yeah, we certainly want to hear anybody who has something to say.
Or I'll monitor.
I just have one thing for Frank and the architect. Have you guys spoken with Brian Schwartz and Jim Lorenz about your project?
I spoke with Jim with regards to, he had two concerns he wanted to speak to me about previously. One was the type of stone that we were going to be using along the retaining wall. We showed him what we showed you today.
Okay.
We'll obviously continue that conversation with him. I know there's going to be a photo text me. There's some other things you wanted us to take a look at. So keep him in the loop as far as that. He also had concern, I guess he currently has a significant amount of drainage off the property that has towards his property. And we kind of talked about how water is dealt with in this plan and showed
Okay.
him that was being
Good.
done.
Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out to those folks.
Very good.
Brian.
What
Brian
was
Schwartz
Jim's
is,
last name?
Brian
Pardon?
Schwartz is in attendance. Brian, if you could unmute. There you go. Thanks.
Yeah, I must have been booted out. I'm sorry. I don't need to ask a question unless this is the end of this presentation. I thought we would be talking a little bit about the landscaping, the retaining wall, and whatnot. If not, I'll ask those questions. And I was trying to when I first started talking, I was just trying to say that I was trying to echo what Steve said about how everybody's putting in so much time and capital into this project, and it's really appreciated by the neighbors and by the Save Grove Hill group as well. So I just wanted to make that clear. So with that being said, is this the end of this presentation, or was the board planning to discuss the issues it raised last time with the understanding the landscaping plan and the I think the architect had said that they were still grappling with the grading on the plan.
We have the grading figured out. It's on the topography site plan.
Right. I see that. So I guess then I'll just go ahead and ask my questions and try to be brief, which is, can you, the first question is, can you tell us a little bit more about the retaining wall, who's designing it and what its function is? The one on the west side of the property, the one by the driveway.
Zoom in on that plan.
So we're talking about this plan right here, Brian. This is the one that's closest to you and Mr. Lorenz.
Right, exactly. And, obviously that's showing some sort of cutaway that I'm not going to be able to understand. I thought maybe you could just explain in layman's terms, what the purpose of it is and how it's going to be designed and who's designing it.
And then let's pan over so we can see the plan of that retaining wall again.
So it's a retaining wall block system that we're working with our civil engineer to design. You can see a cross section through there. I think we did share an image of what that looks like. It's sort of a stacked stone of which we were going to submit a sample to the board for further review.
Right, I saw that.
So it looks like that. And then we don't have a landscape plan drawn yet, but there's going to be landscaping in front of that because that wall, as you can see here, is that dark sort of L-shaped piece. It's about 3.5 feet tall at its tallest point. There is plenty of room between the wall and the property line to install bushes and some softening to that wall with landscape. I know Frank talked about maybe even putting some ivy across it. We're still working through those details. So that the idea is that stone wall should just kind of meld into the landscape and it's not totally visible from your house.
Right. I heard all that discussion. I was on for the whole meeting, so it just must have cut off right when I wanted to speak, of course. But what about structurally? What does that wall retain, I guess is.
Oh, there's a difference in grade from the property line to where to where the driveway is. The driveway's uphill about 3 feet at its maximum point. So we have to retain the driveway so that we can pull straight into the garage and not have too much slope on that driveway.
Mm-hmm. So you said you're working with the civil engineer, but are you guys the architects designing the wall, Mike?
I'm the architect. I work for the building company, and we have a civil engineer and we have our structural engineer all on the project.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Brian, just for your information, the village engineer is reviewing everything here with this site, which is still under review. Nothing's been approved yet.
Right. Gotcha. And by the way, if you want to look at another example of the stone that Steve and everyone was talking about, of course, we have the old walls of the greenhouse that used to be on the property that has that sandstone look that you were talking about.
Mm.
So if you want to look at something, or else, the Mahaliks, the Graves house has some of that kind of stone on it as well. And they did an addition. Their garage addition has some kind of sandstone look to the base of it. So those are, if you're trying to mimic things, which it sounds like the board was maybe recommending, you can look at those. Okay, then I had one question about the geotechnical report. It says January 8th, 2020, but I'm assuming that's a typo. Is that supposed to be 2021 on the beginning of that report? Or is this not something that the board has even looked at? I don't want to get in that.
We don't really review the geotech.
I see.
That's in front of our village engineer as well. I saw that as well. I thought maybe it might have been a typo, so.
Well, right, because the one thing I was wondering is this plan that we're looking at right now, it says December 21st on it. But the geotechnical report says December 2nd. There's no December 2nd plan, is there, Harry? Is it just December 21st?
I believe it's just the 21st.
Yeah, so it might be another typo. Well, then I guess my only question to Mike is, I mean, the report, the geotechnical report, at least so far, that's what you're following when you're, the one that was submitted, I guess, just recently, even though it's misdated.
What was the date of the old VIT report?
I think that is the old report. That is the.
There's a summary page on top of the old report. The old report is August 5th, 2019, and it's attached. So, all right. Well, maybe this is too much into the weeds. Since it has to do with, but Mike. This is the report. You are following the current geotechnical report that was submitted by Wirtz. It was
part of the report we're using was submitted in this permit application.
Right. Gotcha. For now, I don't have any other questions. Just ask that you stay in touch so we can get a little more notice of what's going on. It's it's tough to figure out. I can't read these plans in a couple of days. I have to ask somebody to help me. So.
Okay.
If this is so I potentially Nancy Rogoff was asking if this is a preliminary or a final approval. And I do think we should, if it's a final approval, we should kind of say that that final approval relates to the structure, not to the retaining walls or landscaping. Somehow keep it. And I think that would satisfy our code in terms of allowing for demolition. It is a final, correct?
Yes, it is. And as I mentioned earlier, the grading and hillside report, that's all under review with the village engineer. He has not approved anything yet. It's under his review. along with the plan review, they have to do a revise and resubmit for code compliance.
I mean, because
So
of the
any
foundation-
approval would be based on that. So any approval would be subject to that.
But I do think maybe there's a consideration of seeing the landscaping relating to that retaining wall that faces the neighbor.
Subject to approval of the retaining wall by the engineering and our committee.
Correct.
Yeah.
Revise and resubmit the retaining wall or something like that.
Mhm. Okay,
You want me to try this? I've been writing notes.
yes, please.
And you're gonna send them to me, aren't you, Wendy?
Pardon me, Joan?
I said you're gonna send them to me, aren't you?
What am I sending, the motion? I haven't,
Yeah, once you start, because you said you have like a laundry list, so I figured you'd just
well,
send me.
I'm
it
gonna,
too.
I haven't made the motion yet, so let's give it a try and then I'll follow up with whatever details you need, Joan.
Okay,
Okay, so here I go. So, motion for final approval of plans as presented, subject to submittal of details including stone and mortar material, the addition of columns on the connector. Help me with this, general details of finishing details. I'm trying to get to the brackets and all that. Do we want to call those finishing details or
Architectural details.
architectural details?
Administration.
You're muted, Bill.
Yeah, what George said, architectural details, I mean, of all the exterior details, there's quite a few of them.
Okay, architectural details, restudy of the square and picture windows on the barn, landscape plan and retaining wall with engineer's approval.
Might mention geotech too. That's all part of it.
Engineer and approval and geotech.
Yes.
All the subject to that, yes.
Okay,
Stone and mortar materials and design.
materials and design. Okay, Joan, I'll say it again if that was
okay,
much coming at you. So motion for final approval, subject to submittal of architectural details and details including stone and mortar materials and design on the connector, and restudy of the square and picture windows on the barn, resubmittal of the landscape plan and retaining wall with engineer approval and geotech.
got it.
Anything else from the board that you want to add? Okay,
I second that motion.
that's the motion. Mhm.
Got everything, Joan?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Motion by Naylor, second by King. Childs,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you guys very much for your time on
Thank
this.
you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Well, we're not quite done. We need to, we discussed it to death, and I believe we've had a lot of public input going back several meetings, but the demolition of we call it a barn or a carriage house. Now that we have a plan to go forward, I would move to demolish the carriage house, I'll call
second,
Okay, motion by King, seconded by Naylor for demolition of the accessory building carriage house. Childs,
Yes.
Naylor,
yes.
King.
it. Yes.
Okay, demolition's approved.
I just saw a note from Brian. Steve, did you say that? That he's wanting to know if there's going to be a public hearing on those details? And my answer would be at the next architectural review board where this would be presented,
Right.
correct?
Not a public hearing, it's just, public hearing's different. It'll be on the agenda for those.
It'll be on
details.
the agenda, yes.
Open to the
For
public.
public comment.
Correct.
Very good. All right.
Thank you,
Very-
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Project on a slightly different scale, 25 South Street. We had a discussion and then a post-discussion with the owner at the last meeting. Mr. Kepf has had a meeting, which maybe he should explain with the owner. And I guess I was enlightened to some things. Would you share that, Phil?
Is Phil still on?
Phil got booted earlier. I thought he was going to log back in.
I don't see him in attendance right now.
Okay. Phil was to have the meeting with the owner, who was a little concerned about our decision, a lot concerned about our decision. They had a meeting together. Mr. Longnecker maybe can fill in some blanks, but Phil, after looking at it and seeing how the Hardy board was applied on the addition of something like 10 years ago, I hesitate to use the term mitered because it's not really a mitered corner, was a matched corner, a butt corner, and that there were not going to be corner caps on the proposed re-siding of the front of the building. I had concerns that the owner, quite frankly, was being promised too many things by the contractor in terms of insulation and never painting again and so on and so forth. But I think the owner now understands that there certainly is improvement maintaining the paint on the Hardy board, and especially after you have adequate and complete vapor barrier and insulation, which is his goal. Phil, I'm speaking for him now, I'm sorry he's not here, was thinking that the Hardy board re-siding done in the way that they had discussed would be reasonable, and that the owner should be able to reap the benefits of new insulation and a vapor barrier. Harry, did you talk to Phil about this? Am I covering that?
I spoke with Phil about this as well. And I got some pictures right here that I dug up from, I think it was 2015 when the addition was put on. This is insulation, voids in insulation they found when they did the addition. So I think they're going to find, once they pull this wood siding back, they're going to find some cold spots where there's no or very little insulation. But yeah, I did talk to Phil about this. I spoke to the property owner.
So
about
Phil was
re-siding.
satisfied that they could achieve the desired effect with the Hardy product.
Yes, not having corner boards, having, I don't know, is a butt joint cut in such a way that it appears mitered, something like that.
And the existing house, I'm looking at that picture and wondering if it's not aluminum, right? I'm seeing these vertical lines as though it's aluminum.
In this picture,
No,
George,
it's not aluminum.
Okay.
it's wood.
I just had one comment on this. I think it's fine to put the Hardy board siding and all the trim and stuff, but I think it's really important. I've been on other boards where we've gotten burn on this, where what you really need to do is what we've done in the past is require them to do all the details of what's like, document it, take pictures of it, and then do section cuts like through the head, the jamb, the seal, the freeze, anywhere there's details so that they get matched to what was existing. Because what's happened in the past, when you don't do that, have documentation and a trail of what was there, everyone, they'll put it together and it'll be close, but maybe not be quite what it should have been if we're trying to keep those historical details, especially the shadow lines. For example, in Hardy plank, if you don't get artisan siding, this butt joint becomes very shallow and it almost looks like a material that really shouldn't be on the house. So Hardy plank has a material called artisan, which has a really deep butt to match if that's the case. Now, So you really need to survey the details and have all those so that we're looking at this and they do this, we can go through the details and make sure that someone should go out there like Phil, if he's willing, and make sure that they did it according to what was drawn and what was there before. That's the only comment I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're trying to establish a better vapor barrier, they would be removing the trim then as well as the siding.
Right.
I'd also like to see more documented evidence of where this siding has deteriorated before we allow them to remove existing historic material.
I guess that was the point of the earlier meeting that did.
Yeah, and I
deterioration
haven't seen the evidence shown that there's extensive, damage to the existing material. And I really not hate to see it. We're not supposed to remove historic material, removal of historic material unless there's evidence of deterioration. And that hasn't been presented yet.
So folks, if I can jump in real quick. Sorry, good morning. Really thanks to Phil for walking the site with me. Had a lot of good comments, a lot of very insightful. One thing that we had talked about a lot, and it's evident really all over the house except for the addition that was put on years back, is that this house has been painted over and over and over again. And in many, many places, in pretty much all areas of the house, you can see that this siding is no longer like a smooth, nice finish. It is beat up. You have things peeling. You have layers of paint where you can see them overlapping, where it doesn't give it a nice, clean, good look of the house that you would want to see. So a lot of that, it's not so much that the siding is damaged, but the cosmetic look of the siding that's currently on the house isn't going to it's not going to be what we want at the end of the day in terms of how we want our house to look and how we want the house to be in town as well. So I understand there's some historic value to the siding itself, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a much better look at all things considered.
Well,
Hey, Steve.
Unfortunately, at least in my mind, you're putting forth a case against what you're after, because houses that are a certain age have a certain number of layers of paint. And when a homeowner or the high school kid next door paints a house, you get a different job than if you had somebody who knows what he's doing. Having many layers of paint and being able to see scrape layers and so forth, it's kind of part of the look we're looking for. It's the oldness look. If you have a perfect flat surface, like a new hardy board surface or a vinyl, or back in the day, aluminum, it has a very unoriginal look. And that's the look we're trying to avoid. That's the point. So having the perfect flat surface is not really our goal. Having the original look surface is our goal.
Dave?
Yes.
Let me put everybody's concerns to rest here. I just got an email from Phil. He can hear us. He just can't talk. Something, he's having a technical problem, but he said he will guide and help the homeowner with this process.
That's very good. That'll get the detail that Bill was speaking to.
Correct.
It doesn't answer Wendy's concerns. How bad is it? Does it need to be done is the question. Those photographs that Harry had are quite insightful. The foaming commercials that we see on TV today, let alone back then, are not the way it is when you inject foam. It fills every nook and cranny. Well, it doesn't. And question is it bad enough? Is it cold enough? Is it leaky enough to need to be re-insulated in that way? And that's a tough question. That's a tough question to know.
Well, I would think if I could just, from a technical standpoint, I would think if they remove the siding, they'll be able to capture any deficiencies with the insulation and correct any thermal problems and have a good thermal envelope for
Where I
re-siding.
am is I don't want to set a precedent where homeowners can now come in and just say, I want to replace all the siding on my historic house. Without
Wendy-
showing evidence, I want photos and documented evidence to be presented before that is a drastic step to allow us to remove siding on houses where there isn't evidence of damage. It can't be repaired in another way. You know, there's talk of moisture I'm just not seeing enough that's different from what our vote was the last meeting to deny removal of all the siding and replacing it with hardy board.
My understanding at the last meeting, one of the bigger concerns is really the corners of the house and how with hardy board, we would be changing the look of the house because we have those corner caps. That was also kind of news to us as well. That's not something that we would want to do. We're looking to keep the same appearance of the house. But at the same time, you know, with updated siding and a refreshed vapor barrier, it'll just further preserve the house for many years to come.
Well, yeah, the house isn't going to.
I don't have anything else to say other than the fact the code directs us to retain historic material unless some evidence of deterioration. And that is a big step for us to set a precedent where we're allowing removal of siding without showing that evidence.
Wendy, I might just state, we've already set a precedence twice so far, and I think I could find more, where we've allowed historic homes where the siding has been removed and replaced with hardy board.
I would refer to my letter of the
Well, there
recent
was
week.
one on East Washington Street where he did it and then came in and asked for forgiveness.
Yeah.
That was not something we saw, or he had ordered the hardy board before he'd installed it.
Right.
But I don't recall another example, but
276 South Franklin Street. 276 South Franklin
South
Street.
Franklin Street. He had ordered the blue hardy board and it was in the front yard before he had come to us and asked if he could have all that siding removed. And
Yeah,
we were
then-
in a sticky place and he was talking about moisture. I remember discussion about that, but I'm not seeing that here. I'm hearing someone saying, I want my house to look new and smooth and, you know, lovely, like a new, but that we've talked about, it's not what historic materials look like. I mean, this is my position. I'm one vote. I would vote no, but there's two other members of the board.
I would like to walk around and see the damage myself. We can't all come at the same time because we can't have a meeting, but we can go as Phil did, as I can go and Wendy can go separately to see what exactly is going on or not going on.
I'd be happy to do that too.
I would
Yeah.
be happy to come see that. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. No action is necessary here that I can see today.
Is the applicant, are you okay to have them come by and visit and then that you can revise and resubmit for the next meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. And Harry, I can work with you in terms of scheduling that further. That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Who do we need to get in, or can we just walk around the outside?
We could just,
Well, and that would give the applicant time to do whether Phil does it or not, you know, define those details. You know, the corner detail is important, so we're hearing about it, but what it, you know, that I think that's important as part of the application.
Okay. Harry, I don't think we need to revise the reason me because we're not having a
That's
submission
fine. We'll
today.
just table it.
Yeah, we'll just table it. Okay. All right. Details to follow. I'm there.
Okay. I don't know if there's anybody that wants to do a walk-in. Christy, is there anybody in the room waiting?
Yes, I have Brad Composo. If he would like to start his camera and unmute. Brad, are you there? Sometimes it takes a minute to change the settings. So
There he is.
here we go.
Sorry, I actually have to leave this morning. See you guys.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, Brad.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Very good.
Hey, sorry, I was trying to work during this. Are we at the end where I was trying to talk about that 68 Ridgewood?
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're an add-on, so we should
Yeah.
expedite this.
I'll go quickly. Harry, do you have the elevation that we were thinking?
I don't have anything. You got to share it with us. I
Oh,
mean, I have stuff, but I didn't put it together because it's a walk-in. So you should have everything in front of you.
I'm sorry about that. We try to reach out to figure out. Anyways, I have a client that is under contract on this as I'm pulling this up, this 68 Ridgewood, and we're going to keep the overall concept. The formal homeowner or the homeowner now had put some plans together, and although we're going to change them a little bit, we just wanted to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And so I'm pulling this up right now.
Do you need to share the screen?
Yes, if you would.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull it up. Sorry, everybody. I swear. I'll go
Christy?
Mooney's better.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you,
You should be able to share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Can share screen. Share screen. Thank you. Sorry, everybody.
There you go. It's launching. Perfect.
So again, we just this is a one-story ranch now, and if you could see the second floor in the gray, that's essentially what we're going to keep that same overall concept of plan. The foundation itself is not going to change. We might bump out the kitchen, but that'd be for a later discussion. We just wanted to make sure. Basically, what I'm saying is, like, is this have historical significance? If anybody knows the answer to that, or what hurdles you think I might have, so I could be better prepared for our next meeting. This is the front elevation. This is the existing condition as you see it there. We're not going to probably get into that porch outside garden at this point. And, you know, just a lot of remodeling the inside as you look at the first floor, and then the second floor is what we would be adding to the overall plan.
So basically, you're going to take a ranch and turn it into a 2.5 story.
That's it. We're taking a ranch and we're going to go up with it. I think the homeowner wants to stick with like the classic kind of white siding, even the white windows. Kind of just try to go with a classic look to it. And
I don't know, as the board and bathroom fits the rest of the house.
Right.
We don't think so either. We don't even plan on, I think that's a great call. We plan on just matching the siding that's on the home already, which is horizontal siding. I think when they did this originally, they were trying to like create like a farmhouse, and we don't want to get into that. We're thinking like just more of a traditional look to it, and not try to create something that I don't think's there, frankly.
Farmhouse is an interesting term. It's quite the term lately.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're coming. I watched a TV show that said they made a farmhouse out of 3 shipping containers, you know, the corrugated overseas containers, and they called it a farmhouse. So I don't know what a farmhouse is.
Yeah, we're not trying to put lipstick on a pig, if you will, and try to create that. You know, we want to kind of maintain the same roof lines that you see on the, if you look at the garage, or if you look at that left side, that's the roof line that's existing, right? So we're not trying to, again, recreate anything. We just want to put that second floor on there, and then we're going to redo the whole inside of the house. The neighbors on that street have beautiful homes, and we're hoping that at the end of the day, this thing fits right in there.
So Brad, this is new right here. This is existing, and then this is existing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that, so on the, yeah, the first floor is existing. The garage that you circled, that left side that you circled is an existing condition. We are, the front porch, we are like putting nicer columns on the front porch. We are replacing the front door. It's just like a single door that goes in there now. But so we're gonna make that look a lot nicer. We added a window in between the garage and the house on that right side. And so we're doing some minor modifications to that first floor.
What is that fenced-in area on the left? Is that a hot tub or a trash?
They haven't, we're actually not going to be doing, so when I do a submission, we're not going to be doing that, and we're not going to be doing the picket fence. On the plans, they had that like as a little garden off the master suite. That's something that the client's not interested in getting into.
Okay, my suggestion is this. When they figure out what their ideas are, and you put them together for them, bring them in and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, but just from a high level, I just want to make sure that I'm not coming to you guys with a log cabin where you're like, there's no way in heck we're even going to look at this, Brad. That was it. I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
We look forward to seeing your plans.
Okay, bye.
Bye, thank you.
Anybody else, Christie?
You know, Jim Tressel had a saying that I've always appreciated. Potential means you just haven't done it yet. All righty. If there's nothing else, gone. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
You too, bye.
Bye.